Hello, wounded healers. How are your beautiful souls today? Feeling good? Feeling okay? Feeling crappy? I mean, all of those are acceptable answers, but I'm really glad that however you're feeling, you decided to join us today. So you have stumbled upon Conversations with a Wounded Healer. I'm your host, Sarah Bueno. I am a psychotherapist in Chicago. And this podcast is a conversation about the intersectional journey of healing self while caring for others. So a couple things I'd like to tell you before we get to our guest today. If you want to connect with me, the best way to do so is on Instagram. My handle is @HeadHeartTherapy. I have made so many amazing friends on Instagram, and I would love for you to be one of them. To support the podcast, you can also rate and review us on Apple Podcast. Doing the little 5-star thing is amazing, but if you are willing to type something in there, I swear, if you write something that makes me laugh, I will read it on air. And then another way you can support the podcast, if you have the financial means to do so, would be going on Patreon and finding us there. Patreon is a place where you can donate to artists or, I don't know, like whoever. I mean, anybody can make a Patreon account and you could just give people money for nothing. But if you love this podcast and you have the capacity to donate financially, you can donate as little as $1 a month. And if you join, I will send you a little gift, a little hello, thanks for being a patron gift. So now let's get on to the interview stuff because that's why we're here, right? So today's guest is Dr. Sonali Deepika. She is a lifelong learner who, after practicing psychiatry for many years, decided to pursue her passion for holistic healing in support of the embodiment of the soul's purpose. She discovered this work while living across the globe and found the greatest journey to be that of truly coming home to her body. Her heart-centered calling is to guide others on this luscious, magical path to connect to their sacred ground. So please enjoy this really sensual conversation with Dr. Sonali Deepika. Sonali, welcome to Conversations with a Wounded Healer. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me here.
Absolutely. I am really excited to hear everything you've been up to.
Yeah, since we met 6 years ago or
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about we start with you introducing yourself and telling people more about you?
Okay. My name is Sonali Deepika. I have a very, very long last name, so I'll just leave it at that. And I'm trained in Western medicine. I, at one time, have had 3 board certifications. So I've done general psychiatry and child psychiatry, and I had a certification in integrated holistic medicine as well. But I changed paths, I changed directions about 4 years ago now. So I left my job and my life in Chicago, and I went on this kind of adventure looking for deeper ways of understanding holistic healing. And that led to a coaching program. And now I'm working as a sensuality coach.
I
So,
love it so much. I love it so much. And I'm actually curious because we met at a retreat with Susan Lipschutz, who is my former therapist. And I'm curious if that retreat had anything to do with this expansion, this opening for you.
That's a great question. I really think that it was a part of it. It was a part of those last couple of years when I was in Chicago, a year and a half or so, because I think it was like a little over a year. And Susan, especially because I had been going to her 13 Moons, like monthly women's circles, and they were so rich. And we were just getting into so much of this very holistic way, this very spiritual way of understanding our paths. And so, yeah, I think when I said yes to that retreat where I met you, it was part of this whole process of like some stepping stones that were coming into place. Absolutely.
I love that. Well, let's take a tour of Sonali's life. And I'm curious first what led you to become a psychiatrist.
Mhm.
And then, I'd love to hear more about the internal process and the shift into becoming a sensuality coach.
All right. So I had no intention of becoming a psychiatrist like,
Really?
ever
I'll
in
just
my
go to
life.
medical school on a whim.
I wanted to work with children. And I had a passion for pediatrics. I really entered medical school thinking I'm going to be a pediatrician. My father is now a retired pediatrician. And so I'm sure that had, something there, but it was also children. There was just something about working with children that I was really drawn into. And everything was lining up. I just have to say, because sometimes, when things just take a turn, and we'll talk about different turns in my life, but when things just, shift. But before the shift, I got assigned to this really lovely female pediatrician working in the Chicago suburbs. And I was going to her office. And there was this point of this is what I'm going to do. And this is the life I want. And I'm going to work with kids and all this stuff. But as your podcast is about our wounds, sometimes our wounds that open us up to different ways of healing and things like that, it was 2 years into medical school that my younger brother took his life. So this was this immensely, profoundly tragic experience for me that it really did come out of nowhere. Yes, he had some, we can look back and after it happened, okay, yeah, there were some things, but on the whole, my parents and I had no idea that he was in as much distress and suffering as he was. So that happened. So that was the turn. Everything changed for me in my life. I was in medical school, not doing great, academically, grieving, trying to just figure things out. It was a year after he died that I was on, we go through different rotations in medical school to learn, family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics. And it was exactly a year after he died that I was doing psychiatry. So that's when things shifted for me in terms of my path and what I wanted to do. It was during that rotation that I even learned that there was an actual specialty in psychiatry for children and adolescents. So it did surprise me, all of it at the time, but it was also that combination of me going through my own healing and then figuring out how do I want to help others. It was very much tied to this wound and how does that draw us? How does that inspire us on our journey? So I got to go through that rotation and really had a good experience with it, both with working with adults and then the experience I was having with children and adolescents. And it really became clear to me at that point that, yes, I still wanted to work with children. I still wanted to work with children and with youth, with adolescents, but I felt really drawn to helping in this way of their emotional and behavioral, their identity development, all of that felt very powerful to me.
Yeah. Well, and then complete change, right? I'm guessing that you're working with adults now, being a sensuality
Yeah.
coach, right? So help us understand, what led you were, like you said, you were working in Chicago and doing the psychiatrist thing. And then what happened? And I mean that in a good way.
No, I know. I sense that. But and of course, nothing against psychiatry. I do think it's one of the, it's a field that without it, we'd be really missing a huge aspect of a person's healing, that's not addressed very well in any other way. But for me, what happened was part of it was just getting burned out and not being able to keep up with all the admin and these other things. I still liked so much sitting in a room with people,
Right. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Wow, what
Oh,
a concept. I guess especially now when not as many people, I think in mental health, the ones I know are it's remote, kind of thing. But
oh yeah.
and this kind of relates to Susan and that work and other things I was exposed to because I met Susan through another woman that I met in Chicago who was an Ayurvedic practitioner and a yoga instructor. And she and Susan had ties. So Susan had come to some session to do, what she does, with all the women. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm coming to the 13 moods, but all this started opening up for me. And Ayurveda especially, it's so holistic and it's a totally different paradigm than what we're dealing with in Western medicine. It's so much about like, how good does health feel, right? Like, why do we want to feel healthy? Like, what does that feel like in our bodies to feel healthy? And all the different characteristics, the vibrancy, the energy, our mood, feeling inspired, like that's all part of being in good health. And the other model that I had been indoctrinated into was like, oh, if you don't have symptoms, you're healthy. You know, but it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
it got to the point eventually because I was studying Ayurveda. I went to a couple of different trainings for that. I was doing what I could in the US. I mentioned that integrative holistic medicine as well. I went and did that. Like I was doing things, whatever called to me, whatever, excited me, I was doing. And then it came to like, there's such a disconnect to go into an office and talk to people and have this DSM manual and like, okay, what are symptoms? And, because this is
Mm-hmm.
how we have to do everything and code it. And this is how all of our treatments are based. This is how the medications are prescribed. It's all based on that.
Yep.
It's not so much about what brings you joy, like what you,
Right.
like, how do we help you to feel better? What changes need to happen so that your life is exciting to you, or at least like gives you some pleasure or, something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going on for a while.
Yeah.
Being like coming and trying to figure out how am I going to do this or how can I do this? Like I was trying to bring some things into the work I was doing. There were probably a handful of people. It was like Ayurvedic, like your doshas, and let's try to do it. But I know some doctors that have made that work, and even people that I trade from. But for me, I think I just found it hard to be in the constraints that I was like put in and then try to do something different, with it. So that was going on. It was like something needs to shift, something needs to shift. So am I just leaving the job I'm in and doing some kind of practice on my own? Like I remember I was doing different things. I was working with a conscious business consultant who was helping me with like, well, what could that look like maybe? Or was I going to do some different kind of training? I really wasn't sure until my mother's friend, we had been in touch, but we hadn't been in touch for a number of months. And she sent me a message that was like this long email that I still remember, like one of these emails where I couldn't actually read the whole thing. So I started reading it and I'm like, I just knew my whole life was going to change with this. But she invited me to come to Sri Lanka. That's where my parents are originally from. And they had these Ayurvedic resorts. And she's like, come here, you can learn here. We have like they had like a 3-week training program and you can do work here and you can explore your roots. And that was just like, okay, I'm doing that. So that led to me leaving everything, just deciding I'm going to explore this. I'm at least going to explore this and see how that works out. So I went, and it was just night and day, just in a different country and different. It was very much fish out of water a bit, but also like excited to be there and connect with family and all those kind of things. And what ended up happening is that the Ayurveda, that just after a while of trying to be, it was a beautiful resort and they're doing good work there, but it wasn't what I was looking for in terms of really being holistic and really incorporating like the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, everything, like it wasn't quite happening for me. So there was a period of like floundering a little bit, just like wondering, what am I doing now? What am I doing with my life? That's come up many, many times. Like, when you leave, especially when you leave something that's familiar, it's like that kind of questioning. But I found the teacher who is based out of Los Angeles. Layla Martin is her name. And I did one of her, like a 6-week or an 8-week like course that she had, and it was called Oh Bliss. And so this was the beginning into the sexuality piece, the part of the holistic health that I hadn't really explored or really looked at much at all things considered. And even when I've talked since to some psychiatrist colleagues and stuff, we don't get a lot of training in even just some basic things in psychiatry related to sexuality.
Same in therapy too.
Yeah, like you have to really pursue that, get some extra experience with it. So this was, again, I think along those lines of like, I wouldn't say it was a huge wound, but it was like me exploring in my own body and learning a lot. And then that leading to this kind of opening as far as, oh my gosh, this has been missing for my whole life, basically. And
Yeah.
learning about how powerful that connection is to our sexuality and our sensuality and our power and how we kind of show up in the world. And that part of it was really life changing for me. So,
Hmm. I mean, I'm thinking like from a chakra
mm,
perspective, a
yeah.
closed second chakra, being very much like, void of sensuality, pleasure, creativity, that sort of thing. And then like, I just envision this like opening. Did you have any like visceral, like Kundalini or any experiences like that?
I can't say I had like a Kundalini awakening, but it was kind of like this hose, that has a lot behind it that's been closed. That's like,
Yeah.
starts to open up. And then, yeah, your just flow in life, your
Mm,
creativity, your expression starts to open up in a totally different way. And it was a lot of that inner journey for me of like having operated so much from my head, so much from the thinking, the cognition, the intellect, and all of that. And finally, it's like, oh, wow, there's a lot here that I haven't experienced, that I hadn't explored, so
mhm.
that felt very powerful. And that started to guide the rest of this kind of journey because it became about what does my body want? Like, where do I want to be? And I came to Mexico for a retreat from Sri Lanka. I went to the US briefly and then came to the west coast of Mexico. And then that was the time I said yes to the coaching program. I had applied, but I hadn't decided. And then I was kind of like, okay, at first I thought, no, I'm not doing this. I don't know what this is. This is totally foreign to me and I have no idea. But then by the time I finished a week, it was like, oh yeah, this feels really good.
Mm.
And that led me to this town that I'm in now because I visited a friend here. So I'm not saying there were periods, there were rocky points, and just like when you're leaving, it's like shedding layers. It's just like shedding so much. And I had put so much into medicine, just time and energy and
And
money and
money.
all of that. So,
Yeah. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately as I've dug into anti-racism and stuff like that is just how white the medical system is and the whole compartmentalization and diagnostic and all of that is so mental and so devoid of any sense of intuition,
mhm,
right? And you flipped to the complete opposite side of that and it's our culture needs to infuse both, right?
mhm.
Like from what I'm seeing, we need to integrate that, right? And I'm sure obviously you didn't lose all of the all of the knowledge that you had from your psychiatry training and your experiences, right? So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about the integration of those two pieces.
It's such a good point. And I think that's one of the things that really drew me on this path once I, got into the sensuality piece and then was doing the coaching and everything, because like the school that I was part of is the Tantric Institute of Integrated Sexuality. But integration in a larger scheme, not just in sexuality, but just in
Right.
your whole experience is so much a part of that. And I think that for medical education and for medical training, it's going to be so important at some point for it's not just, I find that medicine is just so much the patriarchy. Like it's just,
Thank
this is
you.
how it's run and it's this
Yep.
way. And I faced it all during my training and all these things. And we need some of the feminine energy
Mhm.
in there. And there's a lot more female doctors now than there ever
Right.
were, which is amazing. And like I was there too, but you're still in that other construct. So it's not like you're a woman and
Mhm.
you're in medicine and that's appreciated for that kind of energy that you bring in, or that more of the sensing and more of the being really
Mhm.
present with things. And it's not all the intellect.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know how that shift's going to happen.
Well, what's coming to me right
Yeah.
now is that the patriarchal, which I kind of put like the patriarchy and white supremacy like really intertwined because you can't really separate them. So I think about the patriarchal hierarchy, like they want the body to be a machine, and the
Mhm.
body is not a machine, right? Like two people can have the same things happen to them, take the same drugs, do the same shit, and their bodies will respond totally differently, right? Like
Right.
that part that you're talking about, the sensing, that's the
Mhm.
piece that this whole sort of like medicalizing of our healing, it just doesn't work.
Oh, it's so true. Like, as you're mentioning this patriarchy, white supremacy, what comes to mind also is Resmaa Menakem's work, My Grandmother's
Mhm.
Hands, and
Yeah.
I find that so groundbreaking, and how he really gets at like what is held in the body, what's
Mhm.
held like energetically, what's held in the DNA, like what's held,
Mhm.
and that defies what we learn in textbooks in anatomy class or when we're in, any of the classes, frankly. It's like
Right.
they're very research oriented. Not that that's bad, but just it's like you're saying of a bringing both in. Like, okay, we can have
Mhm.
that, but can we also kind of look at a person and their history, their trauma, their ancestry, and like their spiritual makeup, like what's going on there and
Mhm.
understand in a much broader way.
Yeah, and we're going through these sorts of things within the therapy field, right? Like
Mhm.
evidence-based practice. I'm sure that's the term in medicine too,
Yes.
right? Like evidence-based practice, and it's all manualized, and it's again, it's this kind of like trying to make the brain a machine, trying
Yeah.
to make emotions make sense that they don't fucking make sense. That's why they're emotions, and we've lost the relational pieces of therapy,
Mm.
right? And it's not like the whole field is like that, obviously.
Mhm.
We have to really go seek it out because this is not the training that grad students are getting when they decide to become a therapist. They're getting CBT and sometimes DBT. And I was thinking today, actually, I would like to create, don't steal this, TM, not you, the audience. I don't know why. I listen to this other podcast. They do that all the time. They'll be like, I have an idea, TM, TM, TM. But of creating like, the whole iceberg thing about therapy, whatever. They talk about like, the person tells you this, and then there's all this stuff underneath. I
Yes.
was thinking there should be like an image of an iceberg and different therapeutic models and how deep they go. And like CBT is at the fucking top,
Mhm, mhm,
and I live in the models that are like way deep underneath the water. Like that's where I want to swim.
mhm.
Mhm.
I love that, and I do have to say, just from what I experienced in psychiatry in different settings, that I think that because I get it too, and I felt it also like CBT, it's like thoughts, behaviors, it's like up here. I do
Mhm.
think when you get someone very skilled who's going to sit with someone, like it can go deeper. A lot of these modalities can go really deep, but that's where it takes, the
Mhm.
skill with how it's being applied and how someone is, able to sit with another person.
Okay, well, you don't have to hate CBT as much as I do. That's fine. Actually, I have a friend who he'll argue with me every time. I'm like, I really need to have him on the podcast so we can fight about it because you just can't convince me. But I hear you. I can give curiosity to how it might go deeper. I'm so judgmental. Honest, let's just be honest. I'm just a judgmental bitch.
So I was never very good at it. So it's not like I'm saying it from my my expertise or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But then I had these colleagues that they were able to go deeper with it, and I become like I'd give people like, oh, can you write this thought record and stuff, and it
Mhm.
just really was. It wouldn't go very far.
Mhm.
Even though I know it's probably one of the most evidence based of like our therapies and
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm just offering different perspectives.
How dare you? Oh, man. JK. No, totally. Totally cool. Well, I'd love so a couple things, and I wanna hear more about, like, what is a sensuality coach? What does that look like?
Mhm.
And then I also wanna ask you about the term healer and wounded healer and all of that. So, oh, I see your eyes light up there. Would you like to go there first?
Yeah, maybe I will because
Okay. So, how do you feel about the term healer as applied to you?
oh, that's so interesting. Because I do think about my journey as like healing, oh, kind of in medical school and then this other holistic things and then
Mhm.
sexuality coaching and all these things. I don't think that I ever say I'm a healer. Sometimes though I have referred to others as, oh, these are healers, or, I get the term, but I also think that there's something a little bit, the word that's coming to me is arrogant. Like that's the word that's coming to me
Sure.
about calling myself a healer, or thinking that we are healers, because the healing is happening in someone else's body, right, or
Mhm.
in their system.
Mhm.
I don't think I call myself this a lot either, like just if I think of who I am. But what came up in this more embodied work that I was doing is this idea of really holding space.
Mhm.
So I do think that we can almost, like, very scientific now, but like a petri dish, and there's something that needs to get repaired in there, but we're just like, if you provide the right conditions, it will happen.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to do anything, but you just have to provide the right conditions.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the healing happens. I don't know. I'm sure I've used the term or it's come up, like it's kind of common, but to really think about it and think, oh, I'm a healer, like that doesn't sound right to me. That actually makes me feel like, really?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Well, it's all in the way that you define the word and our fears maybe about how other people define it because, you
Mhm.
know, what you described, I would say we're all healers, right? And it's just a matter of whether you're stepping into that role or not, right? And when you look at it that way, that's not arrogant, but the fear is, and I've had this happen, like if somebody comes to you and they're like, "Oh, you're a healer, you're gonna heal me." Like, I don't want any fucking part of that shit because that is not my job, right?
That right away is like, nope.
Yep.
Not my job.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it brings up to me a couple of things, because in this work I've been doing, sovereignty has become very important to me. And it's
Say more about that.
what I think about it is that we are whole. When we are whole, we have that connection to whatever's happening in our body. Like this is in our sovereignty, to kind of have that kind of empowerment, kind of feel embodied in that power that we have.
Mm.
And so when it comes to healing, I think this is where things can go awry a little bit. I mean, I see what you're saying too, like we're all healers, or we're all on that path of healing, we're all healers in some ways. And I've seen so many times on this journey, whether I'm in it in the medical field, in it as a professional, a consumer of, of medicine or healing of different types, where that power that is
Mhm.
ours gets projected onto somebody else.
Right?
And it creates this kind of codependency. Oh, now I need you to heal.
Mhm.
That's just something that does not feel good to me at all. And
Right.
I know we're gonna get in situations like what right away popped in my head is like, okay, something happened, something's broken, you need a surgeon. Okay, so the surgeon is going to do this procedure.
But he doesn't heal the bone.
He's in the bone, right?
He creates the conditions just like you said.
And I think it's just healthier to see it that way. It's like we can find people to help support us on our healing journey, but the power is in us.
What that requires,
Mhm.
here it comes, everybody. They're waiting for me to say to talk about NARM because I'm obsessed with this therapy modality, all about complex trauma. So here it is. Here it is, folks. Agency. It requires a person to be in contact with
Yeah,
their own agency.
yeah,
And when you are a person who has struggled with developmental trauma,
yeah.
our own agency can be threatening. And so that is a big, like, bridge that we need to help build. And part of it, I truly think, is again, white supremacy and patriarchy is kind of suggested that our agency is not a good thing, right?
Right.
It's, yeah, listening to yourself. That's no, that's crazy. That's you're a lone wolf. You're going rogue. Like you need to do the things with the rest of us. And so, again, back to the marriage, right? Because we can't just do whatever we want willy nilly all the time. We do have to coexist with other humans and nature, which we're not doing very well, right? So it's this
Right.
right, a reintegration of connecting with our agency,
Mhm.
trusting that, and being able to discern between when do I need to listen to myself and when do I need to listen to the group, right? And yeah, if we had more access to that as a culture, I think that idea of sovereignty would be more well known, but also, I'm gonna blame Christianity here too, right?
Why not? Let's just
I
throw
don't know how
it.
you feel about that, but
No,
but
no.
seriously, like, I'm always trying to get to the root of something, right? Like,
Absolutely.
why is this? And, the idea of Christianity and we need to be saved in order to be whole, and we have to have someone forgive our
Yeah.
sins. That is the opposite of what you're talking about with
Yes.
sovereignty, right? The
Yes.
exact opposite. So you
Absolutely.
heard it here. CBT sucks. Christianity, no, Christianity doesn't suck. It's the way that we use these things, all of them, right? Like
Right.
religion is beautiful. Like therapy modalities are beautiful. We can use them for good or we can use them for evil or they can be negligent, like
Mhm.
it's all the things.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Our sense of agency, how is that really fostered? It's like we've got to do this to this. There's so many
Mhm.
conditions, there's so many ways we learn, or this is how we have value, and this is how we matter, or this is how we
Mhm.
have our worth. And it's really going against that to kind of have that trust in like we're okay, kind of like all is well, and
Mhm.
we'll be guided to whatever we need when we need it. And we don't need to rely on anyone else. I mean, we can go for support. That's very healthy, to have like community and all of
Right.
those things, but not where we are relying in such a way. And that's what brings us our worth, our
Right.
worthiness, our sense of value.
Right. Well, there's codependency, interdependency, or like avoiding dependency at all cost. Right. So it's just a balance.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about the term wounded healer?
I mean, I like that term. I think for me, it signals kind of like what Rumi says about the wound is where the light enters,
Mhm.
and then there's even, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get the names right, but these ideas in Japanese culture where it's like the break, in something is like highlighted. It's like
Mm,
special.
right,
We're
right.
like
Yeah,
we
the like the
echo with gold.
gold.
Yeah, the gold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What is it? What is it? It's like when when a pot is broken or something, they
Yes.
paint it over with gold.
Right, right. Like right in that crack, they paint that. They highlight it. They highlight the wound of it. So I guess what I like about it, I mean, does that mean that every healer or every healing person has to have some kind of something happen to them or, I mean, no, I don't think so. But I think it's just been so relevant in my life that it's just guided everything. It's like, for whatever reason, science and because I did want to help others, whenever I got drawn to medicine. But then the turns that came after that were really guided by, like, oh, this is where I've hurt the most in my life. This is where I'm feeling the most. And this is what I'm going to like, that's going to be part of my journey. And also, I'd like to be able to help others who are going through that same thing, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like from a very empathic way of like, okay, this is tough. This aspect can be really hard, or this can cause a lot of suffering. And, as I learn, can I also help others?
That's how I feel about being a therapist too,
Yeah.
right?
So
I'm just learning shit and I'm telling y'all what I know. So you're welcome.
exactly. I do think it makes such a difference when I've been with people where I know when I'm talking, like they get it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't even have to say that much, but I just know that they understand. So it's our own, like, kind of our own, like, hero's journey kind of thing is like we
Mhm.
take that and we do some good with it, like help
Right.
people. But
Hopefully. Yeah.
hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's hear more about what your work looks like.
The work is definitely evolving. as it does when
Always.
you go into something. I went from like such structure and such confines and like a DSM and here are the drugs. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like I went
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that kind of work to like, oh, what do you want to do? Kind of thing.
Mhm. What do I wanna be when I grow up?
Exactly. I have spent, after doing the coaching program, I did spend a couple of years, like one was being a mentor for that program. And then what last year was being a teacher. And so that has been a big part of just deepening into what this work is and embodiment practices and guiding people through them and learning how to support people in a just a different way than I have before. And for my own work, what I've done more is like different workshops, which I've really enjoyed, that are just shorter. What I like is that I have that freedom to be inspired by something that's going on or something I've seen or something, that I'm like, okay, I want to offer this. This latest one is about sensual sovereignty. So this is kind of like it's become my passion now is to really, it's what I was talking about with sovereignty, but also the central part being really bringing this into the body. I kind of have this mission for myself of like guiding people to embodied love, liberation, and the license to expand the expression of their true essence. Like this, as we can release things that we're holding, we get to be more of ourselves and more of our own
Mhm.
energy and more of our own essence and power. And I find that to be very empowering to work on it myself because it's a whole
Mhm.
thing, but then to guide other women into. So
Mm.
yeah, this workshop I'm going to do is about shedding shame
Mm.
and reclaiming our authentic power.
Mm.
And it's been interesting just when I've stepped into this way of working and, just kind of being present to what's there. I noticed as soon as I said, I'm going to do this workshop, that I started to experience, shame and different
Mm.
triggers and different things were going on. I was like, oh my gosh, it felt intense at times.
Mm.
No, but it was also like, this is it. This is kind of like just embodying this ongoing wounded healer kind of thing. So
Mhm.
not like wounded, like I'm not functioning or whatever. I mean, not that I've
Mhm.
not had low points, for sure I have, but it's more like being a space for like things to come in that are going to
Mhm.
help with how to help guide others or hold space for others.
Mm. So is it all group work or do you do like one-on-one stuff too?
I have done somewhat one on one and I want to do more. I kind of wondered, why am I not doing one on one? But I think having done so much one on one of a totally
Yeah.
different modality, totally different way of working with
Mhm.
people, I needed to like explore these different things. And I like the group work has been really
Mhm.
interesting. But now that I'm getting more clear about how I want to support and help others, I think the one on one will be very rich as well. And I
Mm.
am going to be starting a group program. So that I've decided will be for women of color. I'm really excited about that too. So it's more of the
Yeah.
sensual sovereignty, but like a longer process
Mm.
for embodied liberation.
Wonderful. You have to give us all the details when you get that set.
Okay, I will.
Awesome. We're coming to the end of the hour. Do you wanna share with people where they can find you?
So I'm on Instagram at I am sacred ground. And I also have my website, which is iamsacredground.com. Those are the big ones. I'm not as much of a presence in a lot of other places like Facebook or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything that we didn't say that you wanna leave listeners with today?
I guess the thing that just is coming to me is that like I've had this told to me already uh, in this process, like sensual sovereignty, like nobody knows what that is. What is it? But I think what I want to leave people with is just that just because we don't know it and we don't understand it, it doesn't mean it's not worth like looking at. It doesn't have to be this idea. It could
Mhm,
be anything. But like you
mhm,
can get like, oh, I don't know that. What I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. But it's the kind of thing where I think there's so many things that's happened similarly to me that like I wouldn't have understood at all had I not like wanted to take a look at that. Like the very first program I did when I was in Sri Lanka was called Oblis.
Mm.
And like, I wouldn't have, I didn't know what that was,
Right.
but it was at the beginning of that journey of really connecting to our own bodies and our sensuality, our sexuality. And I guess there can be a lot there if someone's willing to explore.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been so great to
Yeah.
reconnect with you. And I've been watching your posts on Instagram and going like, wow, just like you just glow.
Oh, thank you.
And not that you weren't beautiful before, but there's just something about this transition that you've made that just makes you so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, there is something about an inner process, right? That we can all
Right.
go on and
Well, thanks again.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonali, for being here today. And thank you all for being here today. If you'd like to learn more about Sonali, you can go to our website at www.headhearttherapy.com/podcast. Thanks as always to Andrea Klunder in the Creative Imposter Studios for editing, to Liam O'Donnell for our album art, and to Ben Mueller for our theme music. Until next time, bye-bye.